Well, hello there, and welcome to another episode of Warbird Wednesday. My name is Fred Bell. I'm the Vice Chairman of the Palm Springs Air Museum, and we are continuing to work through the trainer inventory today. We're going to do a very interesting trainer, more contemporary aircraft, and actually a real contrast between, last week we did the T-28 North American product, which was a big, what would you say, Greg? I would say roguish brute of an airplane, big airplane. This one, to me, has always reminded me a little bit of a private aircraft more than a trainer. But I do not want any of the T-34 guys to go out there going, "What you talking about my airplane?" Now, as you could see, I am, the staff gets me in some pretty interesting hats. And this one has to be, Greg, probably the most, garish, perhaps ridiculous, if you wanted to say that, hat you have had me wear. But I am Mustard today, and what would I be if I were Mustard without the other side of the coin? There is Ketchup. Now, Ketchup obviously is in his face mask, socially distant. Mustard and Ketchup. Now, I understand that in the United Kingdom, if you say something is mustard, it is cool. It is cool.
Yes.
There you go. Thank you, my well-said friend.
That's a mustard aircraft.
A mustard aircraft. Well, I am the same color as the aircraft today. Thank you, Mr. Ketchup. I appreciate you joining me today. Now I'm going to...
You're nothing without me, Mustard.
Thank you, Mr. Ketchup. I appreciate that. Now I'm going to, take this thing on. We are experiencing this fascinating heat wave. Mr. Greg. Has to dive for that one. That was a tough one. Now, my term today, now, Greg, this one is going to be just a wee bit tough. The sesquipedalian assistant, Greg Kenny. I'm only going to do that once or twice, Greg, because I may lose a tooth in the process of trying to pronounce it. But we are here today with another trainer, the T-34, the Mentor. Now, the Mentor is an interesting airplane, and I say interesting a lot. I'll say it again. By the way, Greg, there was one other thing I wanted to point out today. I have on my Urban Commando socks. Check out those gams. I'm going to use a, Josh Gates may have stolen that, but he doesn't have my legs. Josh Gates, curse you, Josh Gates. We're taking it up a notch. We're going to socks. So, we're doing the T-34 Mentor today. T-34 comes as a brainchild. We're going to get this thing up here. There's a plan view of the airplane like we normally do. Now, this is the brainchild of Walter Beech with Beech Aircraft. This, you see the plan view, two-place trainer. Now, this again, tricycle gear, piston engine airplane. It was the A and the B model were designed for the United States Air Force and the Navy, respectively. The first flight, if you believe that or not, was in 1949. There are about 2,300 of these aircraft made. It kind of went through a progression. We'll talk about that a little bit. But now, as we said, the T-28 was big, tough North American airplane. This airplane, to me, has always looked a little bit lighter. It did teach ground handling. The later versions would have a difference between a steerable nose gear and a dihedral. By the way, kids at home, dihedral in the wing. We talked about dihedral before, but go back out and look out dihedral. The later versions of this airplane had dihedral in the wing. Now, the one thing about this airplane is this is a Fred fun fact. Greg, did you know this? It actually evolved into a jet version of the trainer. I can't believe that. Do you know that, Greg? The jet version of the trainer was the Model 73, the Model 73 jet trainer of this particular type of airplane. Now, the thing about that was it was prototyped all the way up to the 1960, and then it went by the wayside. They didn't build it. There is one surviving example of that airplane in the Midwest. Now, this aircraft was designed to teach flight training.
Your check pilot gives you the go-ahead, and you're on your own. make that first successful solo, you're over the first big hump of flight training. Now you're in aerobatics and precision landings. It's all for real, and when primary training comes to an end, you're on your way to becoming a part of the United States Naval Aviation Team.
It also has the other distinction in that it was, Greg, you ready? It was also modified into, in the C model, it was also modified into a ground attack airplane, and that it had hard points on it. Now, I can't, if you look at this thing, I can't see that this would be a tremendously effective combat aircraft. What do you think, Greg? But it probably could do okay. Now, the C model of this airplane also had the distinction of having a turboprop in it, if you can believe that or not. It was a turboprop airplane. That version of the airplane served all the way up into the middle 90s. And the interesting thing is that there are still a couple of these airplanes flying with NASA in flight test. And what they do is they use them in flight test for drone stuff, if you can believe that, which I can't. I mean, to think that these things are still around is absolutely amazing. But they did create a turboprop version of the airplane. The airplane has made it into aficionado hands. In fact, we have a gathering of the mentors every year at the Palm Springs Air Museum. You should go out. To the site, and we can tell you when that's going to happen as soon as we get past all this fun and exciting COVID stuff. Greg, isn't this fun and exciting what we're doing right now? It is absolutely amazing. Now, what I'm going to do is put this down for a second, and I'm going to go over here to my stage 2. Now, Greg has given me an interesting stage 2 today, in that this is, since 1917, the Cheer wine. Is this alcoholic, Greg? Oh, it would be exciting if it was. Since 1917, it is a crafted, why do they always say crafted? Crafted cherry taste. You notice every one of these you bought me has been crafted. Now this one has 150 calories, but it doesn't look like any fat, Greg. You're doing really well. It has 25 milligrams of sodium in it, though. So you're loading me up on the salt, Greg. So we're going to pop this thing open here and try that out. There we go. I'm going to give it a shot. Now, what we want to do today is, when this episode airs, it's going to be National Aviation Day. So all of you and all of the pioneers, starting all the way back to hot air balloons, and we've talked about the Wright brothers, and all the Dornier and Zeppelin and all of them in between, Kelly Johnson, I want to salute all of the folks that continue, even up to, Greg, I'm going to go into like rocketry, like Elon Musk. Look at what we just did with Dragon, where we returned space flight to the United States. That was really exciting. If you ever get the chance, go over to Hawthorne. Every once in a while, they will do a tour of the SpaceX property over there. You should go over there and do a tour of that. That's absolutely amazing. Did you know that that SpaceX factory was repurposed, Greg? It is an old 747 assembly plant, and it's absolutely massive. But if you ever get the chance to go over there and do that, but to all those aviation pioneers, National Aviation Day, cheers. Ooh. That has a little bit of a bite to it, Greg. I don't see an expiration date. By the way, Cheerwine is, oh man, is not a sponsor of this program. Oh, Greg is enjoying this. I've got a smile out of Greg because Greg finally got me with one. He had about 3 or 4 of them where I was like, oh, this is good. I like this. Oh man, that's a gift that keeps on. We're going to do it one more time just to have Greg have some more fun. Greg's going, yeah, one more time. All right. Yeah, Greg, you know what? We're not even going to carry that one with us. We're going to do the exception, and he's looking sad. We're going to set that one down. we may have to call emergency services. That was pretty bad. All right, so back to, and I am sweating. By the way, it is really, really hot. Did you know that, Greg? It is incredibly hot. So back to the T-34. Now, the T-34 also has some other interesting legacy, and I don't know that it would be a legacy that you would want, but we're going to talk about it. First of all, when Beech designed it, did you know that this airplane originally had a V-tail, which I did not know that when I was looking up into that. But this aircraft also was a pioneer in product liability. You know, Beech has a very long history with the Starship and the Staggerwing and a lot of great airplanes, but this airplane has the distinction of the first female naval aviator was actually crashed one of these. She did not survive the crash, and that caused one of the first early product liability lawsuits in aviation. Did you know that, Greg? I did not know that. So there was a lawsuit over this airplane alleging that the airplane actually had a mechanical problem, and that led to the crash. The Navy's position at the time was that the pilot of the airplane went to dodge another airplane and the aircraft stalled. That was the cause of the crash. Went back and forth. The other thing about this, so it was a pioneer in product liability litigation. The other thing about this airplane that was interesting is in the early 2000s, it had some wing spar problems. And guess what happened with wing spar problems, Greg? What do you think? What happens when the wing spar has trouble? Fred, fun fact, the wing falls off. And so wings falling off is not a good thing. The FAA issued some directives on this airplane. There were actually some modifications in these aircraft as to how they could be flown and the number of hours. I think it was 60 hours that they could be flown before they had to be checked. The airplanes returned to the air at that point, but that was kind of a legacy. They are flying again, but that was an interesting legacy because, you know, in aviation, we've talked about being up there and wanting to get back to the ground. And with some of these trainers, you know, they have to be tough. And no matter what happens when the airplane has a problem, Greg, who's at fault? Always. It's always the pilot, right? And then the pilot looks at something else. In this case, there was a big debate over what happened with the airplane, but the airplane went on. It has a great history with aficionados after that. It's returned to the air. As I said, we do a gathering of eagles at the museum every year. Now, this airplane has that nose gear, so it has steerable nose gear. Now, the one thing about, and we talked a little bit about the ability to have a steerable aircraft or an airplane that just has loose steering. In other words, there's no ability to steer the aircraft. There's two distinctions, and you know, I'm going to plug our other program. We did that live feed this past Saturday under the cowling, and we got way down into that with Mike Flieger with the difference between the Mustang, which has a lockable tail wheel, and the Wildcat, which doesn't, you know, just freewheels. And the thing about that is Navy airplanes, they don't have to teach that ground handling as much because, Greg, what do Navy airplanes do? They're in the wind, right? The airplane, the ship always turns into the wind. And so having the ability to have to handle the airplane in crosswinds, and those kids at home, I want you to go and I want you to look that up. Look at what airplane handling is in a crosswind. The crosswind characteristics of those Navy airplanes tends to be a lot different than their Air Force counterparts and how they teach. And so that is the reason why you'll see steerable nose wheels or different configurations as far as locking tail wheels and stuff in various aircraft. That hasn't changed to this day. Now, this particular trainer went on. It phased out in the middle 90s. It has been replaced by, Greg, an interesting airplane, the Texan II. So it came in 1949 originally as one of the trainers that was slated to replace the original Texan, the T6. It went all the way through its history, and it was replaced by, I guess, Greg, you could call it the great-grandson of the T6, the Texan II. What do you think, Greg? I think that's fairly fairly apt, right? The airplane, the Texan got its revenge in the end, right? So we're going to put this down. Now we're going to go over here to our gratuitous product placement. Now this is not a docent, by the way. See, this is not a docent, as you can see, but you could look very cool in this American Heritage hat. Now this is on our website. You can go out and get that. It will make you, Greg, 3 degrees cooler, 3 degrees in this heat. That's important. It will also make you 5 miles an hour faster in any headwind, because this fabric has been specially designed to shed the wind. Do you believe me, Greg? No, you don't. You don't. But this hat could be yours if you go out to our web store and you purchase it. What are we? We're selling this today. I almost feel like the Home Shopping Network, Greg, for $14.95. Go out to it and we'll throw Greg in with every purchase. Does that work? There you go. Greg's nodding his head. So you get a free Greg with every purchase. I'm just kidding, by the way. We do not deal in free Gregs here, but you can go out to the web store and pick that hat up. And this, we're going to wrap this up, is this T-34 Mentor. Really cool airplane. If you get a chance, they're still flying around at air shows. You can grab a ride in one of them. They're a lot of fun, but this is another trainer on the path to all of the modern pilots and what we're doing. Now, the interesting thing is, where are we headed now, Greg? We're headed to drones. We're headed to drones and basically pilots flying video games, right? So it's interesting to see, or it will be interesting to see, how long trainers, manned trainers, still stay in the inventory. I believe they'll stay for quite some time, but there is no question that drones will eventually make all of these trainers obsolete. So I want to thank you for joining me today. My name is Fred Bell, Vice Chairman of the Palm Springs Air Museum. Remember to smash that subscribe button, like us on Facebook, get out there with that gratuitous product placement. And by the way, if you see Cheer Wine, who is not a sponsor of this program, steer clear.